Detailers, both professional or hobbyist, in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to properly clean your wheels and tires. And I'm gonna show you in two ways of if you have access to a water and water hose, or if you don't have access to water, maybe you're in apartments or in a city, county that you can't use water, then I'll also show you how you can still clean your wheels and tires. Now, before we get started, if you do want to offer this as a business or if you just want to make sure you're doing the steps properly, in the description box down below, I'll give you a guide on the checklist that we went over just to make sure you're hitting the proper points. I'm going to give you the tools and products as I shown here in this video, and I'll give you a quick startup guide on how to offer washes, which includes wheels and tire cleaning, to potential customers. So just check the description box down below for that guide. Now, these wheels are actually dirty, as you can clearly tell. There's a lot of brake ducts. They haven't been cleaned in a good while, so it's a good example. But even if they aren't this dirty, you can still apply the same methods. As far as tool and products, this is just a 32-ounce bottle of water. That way, if you don't have a hose, you can use a water bottle to spray it down. This is Meguiar's D101 all-purpose cleaner, diluted 10-1. You have Meguiar's hyper dressing, I believe diluted 4-1. Tire dressing applicator pad in the bag, a tire brush, an assortment of wheel brushes to get inside the wheelbarrows depending on the type of wheel, the clearance, how many spokes it has. This is the brush for the face of the wheel. That signifies a water hose. This is forced air, and if you don't have forced air, you'll need towels to make sure you dry everything as best as you can. Okay, since I'm in an ideal scenario where it's not hot, these wheels and tires are not hot, I'm not in a hot environment, I can kind of take my time because the product is not going to dry super fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the tires, then the inner barrels, then the faces of the wheel, and then rinse everything off. Now, I myself personally don't like to use too much water when I'm doing anything. So the more I don't have to use water, that's the option I'll take. That might be different for you. Maybe you want to rinse everything down every single time. Completely up to you. So I'll take my Meguiar's D101, diluted 10-1, and spray onto the tire. Now, if you're going for perfection, if this is like a 12-hour plus detail, then you might want to scrub the tire 3-4 times to get the best quality results. In this case, they are very dirty, but I'm just gonna do it twice. I'm not going for perfection by any means necessary. So all you do is take this tire brush and scrub it down. And as you can notice, hopefully it's picking up on the camera, it's not completely white, it's a little bit brownish. That's the gunk, the ugliness, the dirt, all being pulled off from the tire. And you'll know when it's getting clean because it's not pulling off as much brownness and it's coming off more off as white. So, if you have a water hose, then all you need to do is simply slightly, and I'm gonna be real light with the water because the camera's literally right here. So all you're gonna have to do is rinse it down, and then go at it again. Now, let's say you don't have access to a water hose, then what you would do is, it takes a little longer, but it's still an effective method, is you use you just use this as your rinse water. So, as it was dirty, you'll literally just rinse it down the best you can. Use your towel to mop up as much as you can. Not everything because you're gonna do a second pass, and then agitate again. Again, I've done it in the past where I didn't have access to water. I will do this method, it works absolutely fine. So now let's go for the second application. Now again, I'm in a very ideal situation. It's not hot, it's cool outside, none of this is hot, so I could take my time. If I'm in 195-degree weather with 70% humidity, I'm not doing all this because I will literally die of heat and the product will literally dry within seconds. So this is an ideal situation that I could really work the product in. Alright, and let me just show you just with the actual rinsing off with the water. Again, you have to play with the settings that you have it on. And again, it's not 100% perfect. It's not going to be, you know, luxury rinsing off if you just use a water bottle, but it can definitely still work by all means. It's going to take you a little longer, but if there's a will, there's a way, or however you say it. And you can still rinse it off just with the water hose. And then use a towel, mop it up, and you're good to go. So let me just rinse it off with the hose now. Okay, so part 1 is complete. The tires are nice and clean. Are they 110% perfect? No, once you dry off, there's still gonna be a few smudges here and there. It's not gonna be completely black. That's okay. I'm not going for perfection, especially if it's like a daily car that I service weekly. Not the biggest deal. Again, if this is a 12-hour plus detail, it's gonna go to a concours, it's gonna go to a car show, then yeah, obviously if the customer is paying for that, you go the extra mile and do what you promised you're gonna deliver. But in this case, not a big deal. 2 passes, 60-80% removal of the dirt, that's good enough. All right, so now again, I'm gonna take the APC and spray into the wheelbarrows. So now, as I showed you in the beginning of the video, there's multiple brushes that you can use. This is the Easy Detail brush. This is the Wheel Willy, and it comes in different sizes for each one, which is very great if you work on a lot of different types of cars that have, you know, aftermarket, stock, high-end. They're all gonna give you different challenges. Now, which one do you think is best to use? Very subjective, especially when it comes with experience. I personally always like to go with the Easy Detail brush, but as you'll quickly see is that all of this flings back to you because the bristles are literally so flexible that once they're being pulled back or forward, it slings everything both ways. So that's something you have to keep in mind on choosing. Like this one, you don't get as much clearance with these because they're not as flexible, but they don't sling any of that dirt or grime or solution back to you. All right, so since these spokes are pretty wide open, I'm gonna go ahead and just use this Wheel Willy that way because I don't need to get, these wheels aren't too tight. I have plenty of clearance to go through them, so I'll start off with this small wheel brush, and it's a very small wheel too. I think it's a 15-inch, 16-inch, so it's not wide, maybe 7.5, 8 inches. 8-inch, so this gives me plenty of length to get to the end of the wheel. So I'll simply start. And you can hear that, I didn't check, but that's catching the brake guard. So I'll actually switch it up and use the Easy Detail brush because I didn't think about clearance. So now all I'm gonna do is literally agitate. And there will be times where if the wheel hasn't been cleaned on the inside of the barrels for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, the chances of you removing everything on the first cleaning is probably unlikely. That doesn't mean they're in there for, like the brake dust and dirt isn't stuck there forever, but it will require a more thorough cleaning. Now, I personally, as a business, if it does require an extensive amount of work, I won't do it on a maintenance wash because it's just not necessary. Because if they really want the wheels to be as good as they can get, and it's gonna take a very long process or a much more thorough process, then that would be a completely different service altogether. So would I go for perfection if it's not coming up 110% as it is now? No, I will not. And again, going back with the water bottle, if you don't have a hose, again, you can do it this method. I'm showing you this method just because there's gonna be plenty of people that don't have water access. So you could, again, it takes a while, but no biggie. If this is your only option, you just gotta do what you have to do. And you will literally do that to rinse down the entire wheel. Now, of course, life is always easier if you have access to water. All right, next, let's move on to the actual face of the wheel. We're wrapping it up. So here, pretty straightforward. Just rinse, spray down the wheel. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that we always want to use brushes or tools to get the job done. But oftentimes, if you just get a simple towel, you can almost get 80-90% of the entire wheel clean by just a towel, or if you have gloves on, you can literally just get all the tight areas with your fingers and it'll come off absolutely almost perfect by just getting the angle, the tight corners with your hands and fingers instead of always having to use a tool to get it done. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's just easier to just get a towel and wipe the faces down real quick than it is to try to do every single last spoke and detail of the wheel with a brush. But in this case, I'll use a brush since a lot of you guys would rather just do it with the brush. So I will follow the crowd on this one for demonstration purposes and do most of it with the brush. And then I'll finish up the details with my hand or this towel that I have. Now there'll be some wheels that you'll encounter that don't even need any type of solution to get the breakers off, you can literally use like O&R or simply water. And when I find those wheels, that's what I'll go for to minimize the amount of time I take to clean the wheels. So if I know that they come off super easy, I'll simply go straight with water, because again, if it's coming off super easy, there's no need for me to do more work if it's not needed. So those wheels are definitely a pleasure to work on because they're so easy to clean. All right, and that's wrapped up. Again, if you don't have access to a hose, you change the nozzle on your water, on your 32-ounce bottle, and you'll literally just rinse it all down. Again, you don't want anything stopping you from either starting your business, servicing customers, or just doing this on your own, like in your apartments or anything like that. Very doable. You don't need to go out and get a bunch of equipment. Just do some simple washes. And there you go. And then you take your towel and then clean it all up. But since I have the hose, might as well just hose it down nice and easy, nice and good. Okay. Now, if you don't have forced air, you will take this towel and dry off the tire as good as you can, and then you'll dry the wheel as good as you can. But because I have forced air, now I will say it is such a help to have this forced air because it's very hard to get all the water with the towels, but when you have forced air like this, it comes in handy. All right, now that most of the wheel is dry, it did push out some of the water. Now I can see what areas I missed with the brush. So now I just come back, dry the wheel, and then try to get any last little areas that I missed with the brush with this towel. It's not many. And a lot of times what I'll do is once I'm actually drying it, I'll just reach my hand behind the spoke here and get whatever dirt I can from behind this little piece of the spoke. Not the entire spoke, just here where it's kind of visible still. I'll try to get some of it just to make it look a little better if possible. Alright, and wrapping it all up now, I'm going to be using the Meguiar's Hyper Dressing Diluted 4-to-1, I think. I'm going to spray directly onto the applicator pad. Now you could, if there were like bigger tires, or even now if you wanted to, you could just mist it onto the tire. I'm not a fan of that just because it'll get on the wheel, then I got to come back and wipe it down. So just your preference, just try whichever one you think will work better for you. But then you just simply work it in. And most of the time, I always do get a little bit of overspill or a little bit of overlap on the actual wheel. So I always do come back with a towel to make sure I wipe that all down. But pretty straightforward, you're just gonna work it in to make sure you evenly distribute it across the tire. Now remember, when you do have those tires that have that wheel gap between the tire and the wheel, you will want to make sure you press the applicator pad into that part. This part doesn't have it, but just a little FYI to you if you do run into that wheel, because you can easily tell when the whole tire is dressed and then that little part is not. Now, when you're finishing it up, this bottom part you're not going to be able to get. Again, if it's like a huge tire, it's very noticeable when there's like a completely not dressed area. So you want to roll the car forward, backwards a bit to expose this area so you can dress it. Just keep that in mind as well. Alright, so next, as I said, I'm going to come back on the wheel, make sure I don't leave any tire dressing on there. Not that it'll damage it as it is water based, but it doesn't look professional to leave what's not supposed to be there on the wheel. Alright, so this is what we started off with, a bit of cleaning and agitation. We got it to this condition. So overall, very great before and after, especially for it just being a maintenance cleaning. It's more than enough to really wow the customer. So that's how I clean wheels and tires, both personally on my vehicles, or if I'm doing this for a customer, which I do quite frequently as I have a detailing business. Very easy, not over complicated. You only need but a few tools and products. I know I showed a lot of tools and products, but you don't really need that many. You just need to pick and choose which ones work best for you. Try some out. If you don't like them, either return it if you can, or a few months later, buy what you actually want. You don't need to buy every single last gadget, tool, product, equipment on the first go if you just want to start washing your car, cleaning wheels and tires. So check the description box down below if you do want that guide on how to potentially sell washes to customers, how to the checklist on how to make sure you're cleaning your wheels and tires properly, and the other tools and products that I use in this video. Check the description box down below. But as always, give me your feedback. Do you clean your wheels a little bit differently? Do you clean them using different products, different tools? What do you do? Leave those comments down below. Like this video, subscribe, and then I will see you on the next video. Before we get started, check how close I'm working. It's a super tight area, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video.